So good morning to everyone. So welcome to the workshop, Evolutive Shelter Prototype for the Sahel, Greening Humanitarian Shelter Aid from Emergency to Development. So I am Eloise Cagnet, and I work at the Luxembourg Red Cross in the International Humanitarian Law Unit. So today I'll be your technical host, and if you face any technical issues, kindly let me know in the chat. So in today's workshop, we'll be presenting key findings from a pilot project in Eastern Chad, where our teams tested a new context-adapted shelter solution in response to the complex humanitarian and environmental challenges in the Sahel region. So first of all, as you noticed, the session will be held in English, but if you need captions, you could activate them by pressing the captions button. From that, you could select this translation in the language you prefer, and then just save it. Is it good to? Yeah, so you could see the caption button. Then from this explanation, there is a translation that you have to activate, and then select the caption language in the language you prefer. Yeah, then save it. So if it's good to everyone, we could go to the... Okay. So I might say it in French as well. Bonjour à tous. Voilà, je sais que tout le monde n'est pas forcément à l'aise en anglais. Si vous avez besoin, il y a des sous-titres qui peuvent être générés. Dans ce cas-là, vous irez dans la petite barre en bas du Zoom pour activer donc ces sous-titres-là, choisir la langue et sauvegarder les préférences dans votre langue de choix. Est-ce que c'est bon pour tout le monde? I guess it is. So now we could do a quick reminder of the few rules in this workshop. Yeah. So during the session, please update your name on Zoom, your full name and your organization. Please remember to mute your microphone and keep your video on if you accept to be recorded, of course, or if your connectivity is really low, please deactivate it. Also, now, if you have any IT question, please let me know in the chat. And if you have any question for the speakers, please use the chat as well, or we will, at the end of the session, give some time for the questions, so you will be able to raise your hand. So for today, we have two speakers. They both work at the Luxembourg Red Cross in our technical team. So we have Daniel Ledesma, who is the head of the shelter research unit. He's an architect with many years of experience in the humanitarian sector. And we have Anna Carolina Elena, that also has a background in architecture, and he's a shelter officer that followed the implementation of this pilot project.
So hello everyone, it's my turn right now. Thank you very much for this kind introduction and all the explanations. I hope everyone feels comfortable with this workshop. So I will start to make a quick introduction of what is the International Department of the Luxembourg Red Cross, which is a very young department. It has been created in 1989, and our main focus is in the humanitarian habitat. With a particular accent in the Africa region. So next, please. So to support this initiative in the specialization in the humanitarian habitat, the Luxembourg Red Cross has been created the Shelter Research Unit, which we have already more than 15 years of experience in the sector, with work in more than 10 countries, about 20 countries all around the world, and particularly our focus aligned with the Luxembourg Red Cross, and we are actually working in the African region. Our main goal is to support the programs of the International Department of the Luxembourg Red Cross by improve the expertise in the humanitarian field and the housing, the habitat and the housing, and to support the training, the work of the International Department. So the Shelter Research Unit, today by today, is focusing three main works: the technical support, providing specialized support, the innovation and research, which is one of our axes of working, building bridges between the field needs, the humanitarian sector, the private sector, and the academia, and the criminal sharing. So we are committed to share our knowledge and supporting different activities all around the countries that we are working, in particular some conferences or capacity building programs all around the world. So please, next.
So today we will present you a pilot project that we have been developing in the last couple of months that is part of our efforts as a team to look for more sustainable approaches to humanitarian shelter. In this case, an evolutive model that can bridge emergency with further development. We tested this new prototype, or developed this new prototype, for the context of Sahel. For those that don't know the region, Sahel is a pretty arid area and also an unstable area as of today, due to several internal conflicts and other challenges that are also posed by climate change. And the current in use models that we do have in this region fall short when it comes to environmental impact, but also to respond to the new challenges that are posed, that are linked to extreme heat that is being aggravated lately due to climate change, as I've already mentioned, the intense short rainy season that they also experience in late summer, and the lack of building materials, impoverished markets that also characterize this region. We tested it in the eastern part of Chad, so in the Wadi region. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I'm pointing at it. It's a region that borders Darfur in Sudan, where there is currently a civil war ongoing, and that also created added issues when it came to these pilots. But just to provide a little bit more context, these are a couple of pictures that have been taken during one of our follow-up field missions. Besides the challenging climate, we also have lack of basic infrastructure. So in this region of Chad, there's no electricity, no running water, no sanitation, no waste management, which is also complicated when we are trying to green and ensure a circular approach to our shelter operations. And there's also a significant and extremely rapid increase of the population. In many of the bordering villages, the Sudanese refugees are now sometimes 3 to 4 times the size of the local Chadian population, which creates added challenges to the already lacking infrastructures and impoverished markets that exist in the region. We particularly focused in one of the oldest camps in this region called Farshana. It's an old camp that has been created in 2003. It's a camp that has now more than 20 years of history, and that still hosts some of the first Sudanese refugees that came during the first wave of conflict in Darfur, and has now witnessed an extension. So it has doubled the size since 2023, when the conflicts and the armed violence was reignited on the other side of the border. So Another point that is also important to mention, and that we also took into consideration in this research/innovation project, was that we needed to find a solution that was tailored not only for the context, but also to the specific population of refugees we were facing. There's a high prevalence of women and children, and also people living with disabilities, especially like war-wounded men, because the majority of men, if possible, remain in Sudan or near the border to fight or to secure livelihoods for their own families. So often the percentage of women and children in these camps is almost 80%, which also impacts the type of building techniques and materials that we can resource to. So just to give you like a visual idea of what I was talking about, so Fashana has what they call the old camp, so the initial area that has been growing since 2003, 2004. In this area, the shelters have suffered what we call villagization. I think that's how you pronounce it in English, meaning that this part is now resembling like the nearby Fashana village, the Chadian village, and people are expected to stay there in this context of protracted crisis. Up to the north, they have the size of the camp and created this new region where they are still using emergency shelters, standard emergency shelters that are deployed in this type of crisis to host the new influx of refugees. More than 500,000 Sudanese refugees have arrived to Chad since the reignition of the conflict in Darfur. So there's a significant amount of people arriving every single day, and the challenges are huge for the actors present in the region. Now, specifically about the innovation and the research that we developed in order to try and find a design and a prototype that we could reproduce at a larger scale to specifically address the challenges of this context. We started by considering that sustainability is actually like a triangle, and the environmental impact of the project was our main consideration, but that we could also not ignore the social and economical aspects, since specifically in crisis and humanitarian context, these play a huge role on what is feasible and what is not feasible. On the environmental side, we were trying to find a low-tech strategy that was also cost-effective, that could help us face the extreme heat that is faced in the region. The majority of the materials that are used in this context are materials that have like a very low inertia, meaning that they will eat pretty quickly and also eat the interior of the shelters, which poses a lot of public health issues, and also defeats the conditions when we are trying to provide like a dignified shelter option in this region. So it's not just about the numbers, about providing a shelter, but it's also about how we can qualify these shelters so they are actually like a safe and secure shelter for these families in need. Then, as I mentioned, the wadis are the temporary like rivers produced by the intense rainy season in the area that actually sometimes isolate parts of the villages. There's also a challenge linked to deforestation. This is a very arid zone where there's no electricity, so a lot of people resource to wood to warm their homes when needed or to cook, leaving less wood for the structure of the emergency shelters. And we were also trying to find an alternative. And then, as I mentioned before, the lack of waste management. Socially, we were surprised and positively surprised to see that the knowledge of traditional building techniques and local materials like earth and other natural fibers is still there and is passing from generation to generation, but that this could be topped up with a couple of technical inputs in order to ensure that the results of the shelters using this type of techniques and materials also reach their full potentiality and ensure resilience for the years to come. Economically, there's a huge part of this population that lives under poverty. There's lack of basic infrastructure. So we also knew that we would need to refrain from using like a very European approach that was based on the knowing that we would have electricity and that we would need to be crafty to ensure that it could the new prototype that we were developing would be sustainably applied to this region. What does it mean to have like an evolutive prototype? Our idea from the beginning was to apply a circular approach to this model, meaning that we would try and reduce the materials used overall, but also taking into consideration that in a protracted crisis, we won't be stuck in emergency mode forever, and that the families themselves will try their best informally to continuously improve their shelters to provide better conditions for their families. So we accepted that premise from the beginning, and we utilized the already used in the region UNHCR emergency shelter kit. So we started from the same basis for the emergency phase, where we use the same wood structure, and then we would cover it temporarily using either plastic tarpaulins, but we also tested natural fibers, what they call in Chad the seco, so dried local natural fibers that are utilized to create mats, and that are actually like a great solution for this phase. And then slowly double the structure and start like building bearing walls in hurt. We tested as well different types of bricks, but that could provide like a more dignified solution long term. We will show you a small video that was made by the students that actually developed the first concept of this prototype, that was later tested and improved by the knowledge that we could collect from the field experience. But that actually explains better what I was trying to say with words. I'll let you watch. Hopefully after the video, since images are worth 1,000 words, it's now more clear how the prototype evolves from the emergency to the transitional phase. And these were for the technicians amongst us, the technical drawings that we utilized to build the first test prototypes. So we financed by a local Luxembourgish foundation that is committed to sustainable construction, were able to build 5 first prototypes using this exact model to fine-tune a couple of questions that I will present later on, and that should also be considerations that we should take into account when our goal is to overall reduce the environmental impact of shelter operations. So what were the main design strengths of this proposal? So this proposal allowed us to use the local materials and the vernacular skills. As I mentioned, like herd construction techniques are already known in Chad and in Sudan. I was pleased when I departed in the mission to realize that women in particular are quite knowledgeable on how to produce adobe and bricks, which are like raw earth bricks that are sun-dried, and that we could use them to create the bearing walls at the later stages of the development of the prototype. So to say that using such a prototype that is designed already considering the capacities that we have locally can also have more long-lasting impact, positive impact on other areas of society, meaning local markets, creating livelihoods for the host community and also for the refugees. It also fosters circularity and promotes material reuse, because I didn't mention, but we only use 50% of the wood that other standard models use in this region, because we tested dry foundations. So instead of having a concrete foundation, we used like sand and a sand compacted foundation that allowed us to take out the wood pillars that were used to support the tarpaulins and the vegetable mats at the emergency phase, that were later reused to create the roofing structure and reinforce it for the transitional and development phase later on. We also optimized ventilation and shading without using electricity. So we just used passive techniques, meaning for ventilation, we made sure that the shelter was slightly higher than usual without increasing the cost. And we created the ventilation grid on top that I think you could see in the video, where we utilize also vegetable mats to allow for the air in the interior of the shelter to be renovated without creating further challenges, meaning that the protection from insects and sandstorms is still there. For shading, we actually increased the covered area, so we made sure that the roofing surface overboard the area of the shelter 50 centimeters to protect as well parallelly the doors and the windows. We reduced the use of raw materials because we reduced significantly the need for cement with the dry foundations, as I mentioned, but also I will show you later on the hurt bricks that we also tested. We tested the local hurt that was being used to produce them, to ensure that we use the less amount of stabilizer, aka cement, and also reduce the cost, because cement was one of the most costly materials in our BOQ. We passively enhanced the thermal inertia by replacing some of the conventional materials by other materials that naturally control the temperature much better because they have more thermal mass. And we also made sure that this was a participative process, meaning that the design was developed by specialists, but then we had several interviews and discussions with locals and with refugees to better understand how we could also adapt the design to best suit the social norms and costumes of of the area. The fact that it was possible to easily create a division inside, and that there are two entrances to the shelter was highly appreciated, because privacy and male-female division, especially for sleeping, is traditional in the region. And then also a very interesting discovery that falls on the economical sustainability part is the fact that, since this is an evolutive prototype, we can phase out the way we provide financial support, meaning that we can, in the first year when people arrive to the camp, provide the materials for the first phase, for the emergency phase. And later on, like let's say 6 months or a year on as possible, we can top up and provide either materials or money to produce the hut bricks that will create the bearing walls for the transitional / development phase of the prototype, which is great news, since, as we know, these are underfunded crises that sometimes struggle to ensure like continuous financement to such important key projects. And now, because it's not all about design, I will also tell you a little bit about material and how research and innovation was also key for the positive outcomes of this project. I must make a disclaimer to start with. So this project was a very positive partnership, not only amongst the Luxembourgish Red Cross and the Chadian Red Cross, but we also counted with some efforts from the private sector that actually helped us test new materials and also evaluate together how join efforts and evaluate together how we can continue to further improve materials to actually tailor our designs to the conditions of the place. As I told you, we had the opportunity to talk with many that are part of the refugee population in Farchena, where we did our first 5 project test prototypes. And the main complaints were linked to the environmental conditions of these shelters that are in use in the region. We had young mothers telling us that during the rainy season, they had to put their children under their beds for protection at night, which is quite concerning. We also witnessed that there was, even though the numbers told us that the majority of the people had received at least emergency shelter upon their arrival to the camp, many still slept outside because, due to the materials used, the temperature was so hot within the shelters, even during winter, that many, especially those suffering with chronic pain, who are wounded soldiers, had to sleep outside because they could not cope with the heat during the night. And then, as I told you, we also talked with those that already worked with hurt construction in the region, because our idea is also to always support and reinforce the capacities that already exist locally. And we realized that even though people had knowledge that passed from generation to generation, they didn't know about some simple steps that they could take to further improve the quality of the bricks and as well the quality of the shelters in the end. For example, for those that are acquainted with hurt construction, it's very important to test the local hurt that will be used to produce the bricks. And we noticed that this was not being done because people were not aware that this was an important step to ensure the resilience of the bricks, and also that there was lack of knowledge regarding how to properly stabilize the bricks so they could actually resist the rainy season and the erosion that comes with hurt construction if not plastered or stabilized properly. So here are, this is a scheme of how we tried to test alternatives for traditional materials. So for roofing, we took the traditional corrugated iron sheets that are pretty durable and that could be used long and reused long term, but that have a high impact when it comes to embodied carbon and also heat the shelters indoors. And we partner with a Material Innovation Center in the Netherlands and with some panels, so a startup that produces bio-based panels. In this case, they were made out of a byproduct that exists locally, which is cow manure. And we also attempted to test different earth construction techniques to replace the plastic tarpaulins and the fired bricks that contribute to deforestation that are also already in use locally. So here are a couple of pictures. So of the panels that we tested as a replacement to the corrugated iron sheets, of our visits to the facility that produces them here in the Netherlands. They already have tested new lines of production in Africa, namely Ghana. So this could also be like a model with social impact that could be reproduced in other African countries. And this is how the panels were installed in one of our test prototypes. We don't have yet I will show you later on, but we also incorporated a couple of monitoring and evaluation metrics to ensure that we were actually like measuring the positive impact of such a change. We don't have the data yet, but the feedback from our teams that finalized the prototypes and told us that they spent a little bit of time inside is that there's a noticeable difference when it comes to how easy it is to breathe inside, especially during the hot season, and how much more comfortable those could be during the night for sleeping. Here, it's also a little bit of the work that we did linked to earth construction. We not only like tried to better understand how bricks were already being produced in place, but we also tested CEBs, compressed earth bricks, and also evaluated the possibility of introducing such machinery to speed up and to improve the type of earth bricks that are available in the local markets. We compared, because going back to the initial sustainability triangle, we compared and made sure that the different possibilities when it came to earth construction were properly evaluated. So price, availability of the ingredients locally, and their main advantages and disadvantages. And we ended up like using the tree for the final prototypes that we built. And we will now compare how they compare amongst each other regarding temperature and humidity inside. This is also a small comparison regarding price and how we can phase out the financial support. And here are some pictures of the first phases of the shelters. So the test of the emergency design and how they can evolve to the transitional development stage. One last word linked to monitoring and evaluation. So as I told you, we want to make sure that our research produces data that can be later on used to improve our modus operandi, let's say, and that we can also track exactly how much we are able to ameliorate in each parameter. So we will and are already conducting monitoring and evaluation quantitatively. So we are using log tags, which are small monitors that can be installed inside the shelters and outside the shelters that measure temperature and humidity, so the variation throughout a week, and that will allow us to see how potentially with these changes, the shelters perform better than the models that are already in place. Just to give you an idea, I was in Chad during the winter season, so in December, and the temperature outside was around, at midday, it was around 37 degrees, but could reach 43 inside of standard shelters. We will soon have the data from this new shelter prototype that we are developing, and we are hoping to reduce this number by a couple of degrees. And we are also conducting, as usual, qualitative evaluation and monitoring by conducting interviews and talking with the local construction teams in Chad. So the main takeaways is that incorporating local materials is key. Partnerships with the private sector can steer innovation, especially in the phase that the humanitarian sector is crossing now. It's important to have an outlook on the whole project lifecycle to improve the environmental impact of such models. Simultaneously, it's also very important to reinforce the local capacities and to ensure that later on the community will have the resources to upkeep and maintain the shelters that were implemented. Monitoring and evaluation is important both quantitatively and qualitatively, and that more shelter solutions cannot also ignore social and economical constraints. And that's it. So now we will open the floor for some questions. Eloise?
Yeah, thank you very much, Carolina and Daniel, for this presentation. So as you said, it is now time for the Q&A. So if anyone has any question, please raise your hand or just write it in the chat.
Hi, thank you so much. I just wanted to say that was really interesting. And I just had a question on how long this project is I don't know, how long it's been going on, and then how long you sort of see it continuing, like with funding, and if there's like the potential of bringing in other Red Cross societies to sort of grow it as a project and potentially move it outside of just this region.
Okay, thanks for your question, Ruby. So the project has been going on for a year and a half. We are about to finish this first phase, meaning that we are now at the end of construction and just performing the last monitoring and evaluation activities. But we already have very positive feedback from the donor, so the private foundation that I mentioned that financed these first 5 prototypes. So we will probably run for a second phase of the project to continue improve the model and potentially expand its testing to other countries in the Sahel region, as the challenges in these are quite similar. But we don't have yet any confirmation regarding partners for the future, but we are more than welcome to further discuss with those interested.
Thanks.
Is there any other question? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, your mic is off.
Oh yeah, the old muted microphone, sorry. Yeah, it's really fascinating learning more about this project, and great pictures. Thank you for sharing them. So from my experience working with kind of running systems and trying to change things, it's often quite difficult to introduce new materials. So I was wondering how easy or how difficult that's been for you to do.
Yeah, thanks. It's a very pertinent question because it's challenging. As you know, many of these emergency shelters are pre-positioned, so it's kind of hard to start such a change in such a big machine. But I can potentially illustrate with the SAM panels, like the bio-based panels that we use as an alternative to the corrugated iron sheets for roofing, doors, and window shutters that you know quite well, because Suki is part of the Material Innovation Center that partnered with us, and that was a key player in this whole research and innovation project. We took a month and a half to make sure that these new panels arrived to the refugee camp in the eastmost part of Chad, because there's no production yet locally. So this was one of the first challenges. Then there's also the challenge of logistics and transportation in this region. So the infrastructure is not there, and it's not just running water and electricity. Roads are also like a big challenge, and the majority of transportation has to be done by land. And especially during the rainy season, this is an impossibility because of the wadi that I mentioned. So this all needs to be taken into account. Plus, this also means extra costs. So planning in advance and really knowing the context is key to ensure that the implementation of a new material is also feasible, because we also need to ensure that this stays in the budget. And then you also have the acceptance / sensibilization part, meaning that we also needed to discuss with the local builders, the local community, explain how these materials could be potentially more interesting than the ones that were already being in use, how these were installed, if they followed the exact same rules, let's say, as the corrugated iron sheets. So they had tons of questions for us. It was like a very productive exchange. They also tested themselves different ways of assembling, which we found very enriching to the whole process. But I would say it's pretty challenging to actually not more than testing to implement this at a larger scale, because then we need to work with all the procurement procedures that are in place in the humanitarian sector, and that are made out for more standardized, conventional solutions. But we like a challenge, and I hope that we will continue our exploration and efforts in this sense.
Thank you for your question. Is there any other question? Feel free to ask. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Hi, Anna. So since this shelter tribe was innovative in terms of also the construction practices, I think there were new construction practices in terms of foundations and all those things. So were the local construction workers or the local people empowered in those sort of trainings on innovation and how to install those things, how to construct those things, or will it be in the next phase?
Great question. So, to be honest, the Dry Foundation attempt was a big debate about with local colleagues. As you know, cement has become an obvious answer worldwide, even though cement, especially in these regions, is not at all the best solution, not only because you need a lot of ingredients to produce it that you don't have locally. This also involves international procurement. It has a huge environmental impact, as we know. I think the last data issued by UNEP let us know that 80% of global CO2 emissions worldwide globally are only linked to the production and use of cement. But I think it's more like creating the possibility for dialogue. So they also rediscover their vernacular traditional knowledge. So there's regaining confidence when it comes to these techniques, and that they can be used again, and also challenge a little bit this perspective that going back to local and vernacular techniques and materials that are actually super adapted to the challenges that they have locally are against progress, because there's still sadly this idea that our modernized Western way of building is the way to go, when actually you would benefit much more from learning from the specificities and also the capacities that we have in every single context. I don't know if I answered your question, but in the end, they were pretty curious to test the Dry Foundation. And with the exact technique, so compacting, we reached good results.
Super. So unfortunately, we have to close the session now to respect the schedule. So if you have any more questions or you want to get more information, you could get in touch with Daniel or Carolina by email. I will give you their email in the chat. Also, as it is the second edition of the Long Night of Research, and the organization wants to improve for the next editions, please fill the event feedback, whether by scanning the QR code or just filling it in the link there. I will also put it in the chat to make it easier for you. And thank you so much for taking that time.
I would also like to leave one last thank you to all the partners, all the stakeholders that made this possible. Great research and innovation that stems from field operations is only possible with the contribution of all. Headquarters, field, private sector that supports us, donors that are convinced and open to test new solutions. And thank you very much also to all the other participants that were curious to know more about this prototype. Hope to keep in touch, and thank you for your participation today.
Yeah, final thank you from my side. It's a pleasure to be part of this conference, this event. It's a great honor to be part of this team, and promising results are open to everyone. And we are looking forward to keep moving in this line of innovation and sharing with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.